content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service provider with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning. John Mintz does not provide tax or legal advice. All decisions regarding the tax or legal implications of your investments should be made in connection with your independent tax or legal advisor.
Have you ever wondered why the rich get richer and others don't? Could it be that a small percentage of the population pay others to find, study, and execute on legal loopholes that exist with our financial life and make it easier for them to prosper? The answer is a resounding yes. This is the Secrets of the Wealthy podcast with John Mintz. John has spent a lifetime researching and mastering the financial loopholes that he believes should be available to everyone. Join us as we explore different strategies that help you get farther faster towards building and enjoying a prosperous retirement.
Hello and welcome to the Secrets of the Wealthy with John Mintz. John, I have got to tell you, I've been looking forward to this podcast ever since the very first podcast, your inaugural, when you kind of gave a glimpse into yourself and something that most people didn't know about you. I think this was the answer to that question, right?
It is. I tell you, I'm going to make a prediction before we do this show, and this is going to be our most popular show that we'll ever do. I'm just going to make that prediction, only because it's going to be the funnest show. So, yes, yeah. I'm ready to get started.
Yeah, and so for audience members that are just joining us, or you've maybe joined us in the last couple podcasts, on John's inaugural podcast, I asked him the question, what's something that most people don't know about you? And I believe his answer was this. He is a travel hacker. And I love it. I was like, are you kidding me? I've never heard of that. And so he's decided to share that with the audience. Travel Hacking 101, Travel Saving Secrets. Man, that's a great title. And I'm super excited to get into this. So how do we begin this journey?
Well, I want to start off by asking you a question, Eric. Do you like to travel?
Heck yeah. I'm so excited. I'm going to Mexico next month.
Awesome. Well, I'll tease everybody a little bit. I'm going to Mexico a little later this month. Wife and I are going to stay 5 days and 4 nights at the Dreams Resort in Puerto Vallarta. Then we're going to leave there and go to another resort, Villa Premier. It's a boutique hotel, and stay another 4 nights there. We're going to fly first class there and back. And oh, by the way, the whole thing's going to cost us nothing. If that didn't get you, if that doesn't get your attention, then this is not the show for you.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But anyway, so it's great to hear. Other places that you've traveled that you thought were really fun, or something that sticks out in your mind?
Oh, I've been to a lot of different places, but I have to say right off the bat, none for free. I've never gone to any of them for free.
So you don't like the cost of travel either, Eric?
No, I'm still shopping. That's the crazy thing. I'm still shopping between like 3 or 4 different websites for the least expensive for the package that we want, but it's still going to cost us almost $3,000 for the trip that we're going to take.
Yeah. Well, we'll get into the cost of this a little bit here in a bit, and what drove me to become a travel hacker. But I'm all about, this show is about sharing, whether it be wealth accumulation, wealth protection, or in this case, wealth saving, secrets. And so that's why, even though this is kind of an off the typical subject show, it's going to be equally important, I think, for everybody. So let me just go back in time and just tell you how it all happened for me, and my story on why I became a travel hacking expert. And I call myself an expert. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and basically a guy wrote a book on it. He said, if you spend 1,000 hours on any one thing, you are probably in the top 1% of everyone as far as knowledge goes. If you spend 100 hours on something, you're probably in the top 2%. And so I can tell you I've spent 100 hours on this over time, of course. Well, so I consider myself an expert, but I love to travel. My wife, who is my best friend, also loves to travel, but we don't love the cost of traveling. And so we were traveling, I guess you could say, a lot, But we wanted to travel more than we were, and this is prior to 2017 when I started this. And we wanted to stay in nicer places, or we wanted to stay in more convenient places. Something that's right on the ocean as opposed to 2 blocks off the ocean. You had to walk to it. Or right in town as opposed to, a little ways out of town, and you had to take an Uber or a cab to it. So, but we would find ourselves always looking for the budget breaks, like you talked about a little bit before. Because, it's really expensive to travel. And, we're pretty big on saving, especially since we teach others, and we didn't want to part with the money. So that's kind of how this all began, and meaning that, if I don't like the result of something, because I think I also said on those previous shows that I'm a research scholar, a curiosity scholar, that when I don't like something, I go to work. And what I mean by that is I start researching, and I spend, hours at night trying to find a better mousetrap, or a better way to do something, a better way to produce the same or better result with less money, less time, less effort, less something, right? And I also believe that this is most definitely common characteristic and or common secret of wealthy individuals, is how to turn their same amount of time into more wealth or wealth protection. Anyway, got off subject, but anyway, because of my desire to travel, and see the world with my best friend, also known as my wife, and my awesome kids, I went to work and I started Googling things like, I can't remember exactly what I Googled, but I Googled things like travel secrets or travel savings ideas. Like I said, I don't remember exactly what I was Googling, but one thing led to another thing, led to another thing. And eventually I came across this term at that time I hadn't heard of before. And the term was travel hacking. And I'm a little older, I'm 57. I didn't know what the word hacking meant. I thought it was like hacking into a safe or something. So, but, I guess it's the modern day word for loopholes. And so I began curious. And once I found out what that meant, I was hooked. And so I would come home late at night from work and, grab something to eat and jump on my laptop and start really learning about travel hacking. And this was early 2017, right? So not that long ago, maybe about 4 years ago. And I happened upon this website. And the website still exists today, actually. It's called Travel Miles 101. And there's a lot of different sites that do the same thing. I just happened to gravitate to this one, mainly because they offer a free travel rewards course that anybody can take. And there's no catches. There's no catch to it. There's no gimmicks. You're going to get 1,000 emails after you sign up for this thing. It's nothing like that. These guys truly want to share what they've learned, like I am, with other folks, just because they kind of feel guilty, I think, to a little extent, that they figured this thing out. And so I got and started taking that course. And it's a very, very step-by-step course. It doesn't take very long. It's free. There's nothing difficult about it at all. But they actually walk you through step by step. Do this first, then do this second, then do this. So it was, it's pretty easy to learn. Anyway, so I went through the course and I followed the recommendations to the T initially, but then, of course, as time went on, I refined it, as I went. And that's kind of my story as to how this all started.
All right, so let's back up just for a minute. So you're Googling, and obviously Google's always a rabbit hole, but it led you to the right place, it seems. So Travel Miles 101, and you learned and you refined the course for your own benefit and kind of using your own knowledge and their knowledge and put it together. So what came of that? What does that look like then? What happened?
Well, for sure, let me just throw a disclaimer in here, okay? They tell you when you go into the site and where you start the course, they're very, very adamant about the fact that this is not for everyone. And I want to give that disclaimer also while I'm on here, that, just like almost everything, it isn't for everyone. This is not for everyone. It's not for anyone. I think this is how they lay it out in their course. It's not for anyone who doesn't pay off their credit cards in full, because you do use credit cards to accomplish this. It's not for anyone with low credit scores, because you'll have difficulty getting what I would refer to as the premium credit cards, which come with the premium bonuses. It's not for anyone who does not have an emergency fund. It's not for anyone who is not disciplined. I would probably put that first and foremost. If you're not a disciplined person just by nature, it's probably not for you. So now they got the disclaimer out of the way. Here's how it works. So you start applying for a credit card one at a time. And a lot of people don't know, some people have credit cards and they say, yeah, I get cash back. So they'll say, yeah, I've had this credit card for 12 years and it pays me X% cash back rewards or what have you, or I get to buy stuff with it or whatever. What they don't realize is that's usually even like a 0.5 to 1 ratio. Remember, for every dollar spent, there's a 0.5 point reward or a 1 to 1 ratio. But what they don't realize is travel benefits are usually a 5 to 10 to 1 ratio. So they're really giving up a ton of money by using it for stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so that's the first thing. So, but the again, that's not the major point here. The major point where you can accumulate massive points for no cost is the bonuses that come with the cards. So the highest bonus I have ever seen on a card, so you apply for the card, you get the card, and if you spend X dollars, usually within the first 3 months, so it may be $1,000 in the first 3 months or $2,000 in the first 3 months on their card, they'll give you X amount of points. It may be 50,000 points. It may be 100,000 points. I've seen them as high as 200,000 points. Well, so for example, one hotel card will give you, let's just say, 75,000 points, which will get you, like the resort that I stayed at recently, it will get you 3 nights for 2 people in an all-inclusive resort that runs $500-$600 a night, right? That's about $1,500 plus savings for one card, one bonus. And that doesn't include what you spend on the card to get the bonus as well. That's additional points. So anyway, you start accumulating cards. You don't accumulate, you don't get 10 at one time. You would never do that. You do one at a time. So the way I accumulated so quickly is that there was myself and my wife. So I could get one card from me, and then I could get the same card after I'm done collecting points and bonuses for her, right? So we would get, and then I had a business. Well, that's a separate card for the business for me and a separate card for the business for her because we own a business together. So we would get credit cards and we would use the bonus and spending to accumulate points. Different cards, types of cards for different uses. So a lot of people don't know this either. So some credit cards allow you just to accumulate points for hotels. It's a branded card, as they say. So like American City Card will join forces with American Airlines, and they'll have their own American Airlines branded card, but it's a City Card. Well, all of those points that you spend on that card go towards your actual American Airlines frequent, reward, and they go over to that. And so even if you cancel the card, you don't lose those points. So airlines do that. There's some for hotels, and then there's some that are just general points. Like Chase has cards. They're reserve cards, for example, where you can accumulate points and go into their travel site right on the Chase site and schedule travel right through their site using the points with anyone, any airline, any hotel, and they actually will give you additional points if you go through their site. So it's like this, it's this never ending, I'm still learning, right, daily almost, but there's this never ending options of how to utilize these points. They allow, some hotels will allow you to transfer points to other airlines and vice versa to, consolidate points. My wife and I can sometimes consolidate our points together just with the same. But again, I get back to my original point is you really have to be a disciplined person to do this. Mm-hmm. There's 2 different ways that I keep track of all of this, and it's not difficult at all. One is an actual site that was built to help people keep track of it. It's called awardwallet.com. It costs a whopping $10 a year, okay? Yeah. And when I first joined in 2017, they didn't charge you anything. But then I think they had to start supplementing themselves somehow with $10 a day or $10 a year. But then it automatically keeps track of all my points, when they're going to expire, when my free night certificates are going to expire. They send you reminders. It's just a really cool site. And then separately of that, I have spreadsheets, just Excel spreadsheets that I keep track of which cards I've applied for, when I applied for them, which ones were approved, when the points get credited, so on and so on. All of that takes me that as far as what I just covered, it takes me just a few hours a year to keep track of that. That's not difficult at all. The hard part, also the fun part for me, because I'm a researcher, is figuring out which cards you want. Because there's so many credit cards out there, you wouldn't even believe how many credit cards are out there free. Some of them are, a lot of the credit cards are free, meaning there's no annual fee. Then there's another group of cards that have no annual fee in the first year, but then they'll charge maybe $75 or $95 in the second year. You could actually cancel the card, 11 months in or 10 months in and not have a fee. But what I've learned is when the year comes up, if you just call them and say, you know what, I don't really have a need for this card anymore, but I might have a need in the future. If you want to waive that fee, I'll hang on for another year, and they'll actually waive the fee.
Nice. That's great.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. And I've learned all these little sidebars and tricks through these different sites, of people that have come before me that have learned this kind of thing as in fact, I learned this one little trick. It's probably one of the best tricks I ever learned. That if you make a reservation, this has nothing to do with Travel Miles 101, but you make a reservation to go somewhere. And if you send an email to the general manager of the hotel, not anybody else, got to go to the general manager of the hotel before you go, and you let them know that this is a special occasion. So if you and your wife's anniversary or her birthday or what have you, and just say, we are also a Premier Elite member with Hyatt. Let's say it's a Hyatt hotel. We're a Premier Elite member with Hyatt. And it would be really nice if you had any upgraded rooms, if you would be able to accommodate us. Because it's a general manager, it happens almost every time. Because they're raised in that world to serve, and they want to make everybody happy. So if it's available, they just give it to you. You wouldn't believe the upgrades we have gotten. Well, so first of all, the room's for free, and then we get an upgrade for free. And some of the rooms are amazing and incredible. It's just a lot of fun.
Wow.
Yeah, so much fun. So anyway, I set my goal to do, I wanted to get to 1 million travel points. And that sounded like a huge number at the time. But before you know it, during 2017 and 2018, I started gathering up points, both for me and my wife. And by mid-2018, I had made it to 1 million points. And then the goal was just to keep it there. I didn't want to, just like if I save money, I didn't want to save it to spend it. So I got to 1 million. I said, okay, Leah, we're going to start traveling now, but we're not going to let this get below 1 million. So we'll travel at our leisure, but we're going to keep this thing at 1 million and keep going. Well, today my balance is almost 2 million, by the way.
Holy cow.
and that's not counting all of the free nights that we have, because some of these give you free nights once a year on top of the points again. So, but due to COVID cutbacks, we weren't traveling as much last year as we usually do.
Oh, true, yeah.
Yeah, nobody was, right? And it's still hard to get around, but people are finding ways now. But let me get to the funnest part. And so just to give you an idea in 2019 that the kind of places we traveled to. And I just want to say this. I'm not going to tell you this and tell people this to impress them. I'm going to tell people this to impress upon them that there are secrets and loopholes everywhere if you just look for them, or you just connect yourself with somebody else that knows about them and is willing to share them with you. They're just everywhere. And because prior to 2017, I didn't know anything about anything as it related to this. Here was our travel in 2019, the year before COVID. We started by going to Puerto Vallarta, which we're going back to, of course, and we stayed at the W Hotel. Now, that's one of our favorite hotels around the world, but they have a W Hotel in Puerto Vallarta, and they have this really long swimming pool that's completely see-through. The sights, I mean, okay?
Really?
Yeah, like you can see people swimming underwater and all kinds of stuff. And it's a negative edge pull on top of it that overlooks
wow.
the ocean.
Oh, geez.
Like on the beach, all right? It's incredible. So we stayed there. And by the way, all of these stays I'm going to tell you about cost us nothing. All right?
My good
Yeah.
grief.
Then we went to Lexington. That was in January. We went to Lexington, Kentucky in February for a business/pleasure trip. Then we went to Lake Tahoe, Nevada. This was my daughter's senior year, and we wanted to take her somewhere and for spring break for her senior year. And she wanted to go skiing. So we went to, this was March, spring break, we went to Lake Tahoe, and we stayed at the Ritz-Carlton Mid-Mountain, all right? Now, I say staying in places, we wanted to stay in places that we wouldn't otherwise. So it's mid-mountain, and it's ski in, meaning you ski right to the resort and drop off your skis and walk in the hotel.
Wow.
Now, I had just had knee surgery, so I didn't get to ski, but this thing, the room we stayed in, the three of us, it was $950 a night. We didn't pay it, of course, but that's the kind of hotel is, and of course, the Ritz is the Ritz, right?
Yeah.
Then we did a local, what we call staycation, stayed at a Dallas hotel over the weekend at this bougie hotel called the Canvas Hotel with a rooftop pool. Then we went, you talked about Jamaica earlier, then we went to Jamaica, and that was our vacation with our daughter for her last summer trip, and we stayed at, I think that was an 8 or 9 day trip, at the Hyatt Zilara, which is an adult-only, all-inclusive resort. Okay, so not only was all of our, stuff covered, that's not covered in my savings, but not only our flights and everything, hotel covered, but so was all our food and everything else, drinks.
Yeah.
Then we had another Dallas staycation at this boutique hotel called Indigo. Then we went to Seattle to visit family. Then we went to Cancun, Mexico, and stayed at the Hyatt Zilara, again, adult-only, all-inclusive. And then in December, we went to Costa Rica and stayed at the W Hotel in this place called Conchal, which is right on the beach, and then the Hyatt Andaz Papayago, which is right on the beach. We stayed in 2 different stays there to round out our year. So
in 1 year. Wow.
Yes. And again, I know that I don't want this to come out wrong. I'm really not saying that to brag, because I'm not. I'd say that hopefully to excite some people, to say you really can, travel and go places and not have to take out a second mortgage to do so. Because all total, we saved $33,950 that year.
This blows me away, and I do have one question. Do you need somebody to carry your bags? Because I will be happy to be the bag guy. I will carry all your suitcases, and man, that is amazing to me. That's all in 1 year, and that kind of savings from this strategy. That's insane.
Yeah, and I'm sitting here processing this. When I sat down yesterday to kind of write out where we had traveled, I didn't even realize we had gone to that many places in that 1 year, and I became really, really grateful. All of a sudden, not only do we have our health to be able to do the traveling, but that, I happened upon this process or this strategy. I guess I'll call it a strategy that is a legal strategy that allows us to do this. And, it doesn't bother the banks at all, or the hotel companies or airlines or anybody that's all kind of in on this, because they know. And here's the sad part, if I can give you the sad part. The sad part is the banks know that less than 1% of the population, remember I talked about the 1%ers and the 2%ers?
Yep.
Less than 1% of the population will actually pay their credit cards in full every month. And that's the sad part. But the fun part is that, so they could care less about us, right? They could care less about us. A drop in the ocean to them. That's more than offset by the other 99% that don't pay it in full and sometimes pay fees on top of it and all the other 9 yards. So if we can motivate anyone out to pay their credit cards in full every month, and to be able to have some discipline with their credit cards and be able to someday do this, man, what a difference we've made, right?
Yeah, absolutely. No, this is fantastic information, and I know that we can put links in the show notes to different things in here, like the website. Any other closing thoughts for today's podcast before we sign off?
Yeah, the moral of the story here is what I was really trying to get across was not, all the great places we've been or where you could go or anything like that. The moral of the story here is that the secrets of the wealthy, it doesn't need to be a secret, right?
Yeah.
That is really because this was a secret to me and it wasn't a secret to other people. There's Facebook groups out there that are people like me doing this, and they share information with each other when they travel. I mean, it's really, I think almost all people are good people and want to share what they've learned with someone else so that they can benefit too. And especially folks that have accumulated wealth, I think are mostly like that, or secrets. And so all you have to do really is just open yourself up to learning them and acting on them. And that's why, that's really why I built this podcast show, Eric. And thank you for being the host here, so that other people could begin to learn that they really can learn from the secrets of the wealthy and benefit themselves also. And I always say if one difference with one person or two people, then it will be completely worth it. And I hope this show makes a difference for someone somewhere, and maybe they just take the trip of their dreams and have it to share with their family for the rest of their life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you again so much, John, for your time. I know what I'm going to do with this podcast, and I'll talk about that in a second, but I wanted to thank you personally for that. And our last thank you always goes to you, the listening audience. We wouldn't be here without you. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to the Secrets of the Wealthy podcast with John Mintz. If you have not subscribed to the podcast yet, please click the subscribe now button below. This way, when John comes out with a new podcast, it'll show up directly on your listening device, which makes it much easier to share these podcasts with your friends and family. And here's that part I was talking about. I said I was going to Mexico next month, and John knows that. I'm going with 3 other couples, so there's 8 of us all together that are going to be going, and cool. I'm super excited about that. But now I'm really excited about sharing this podcast with them, and I'm going to sit down. We're going to have a dinner one night, and we're going to plan out how we can all do this together and hold each other accountable, because leveraging the information that John has given us, and you guys, the listeners, leveraging this information that John is giving to you every 2 weeks, this is going to change the game. This is going to change how you view your life and what you can do with the wealth that you have accumulated or that you're going to accumulate. John, I love the fact that you said the secrets of the wealthy don't have to be secrets. So thank you so much for sharing that. Again, thanks for listening today. For everyone at the Secrets of the Wealthy, this is Eric Johnson reminding you to live your best day every day. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Secrets of the Wealthy podcast with John Mintz. Click the subscribe button below to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of John Mintz. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service provider with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning.